Now, let's take a look here. What I did, as you can see, was to set up all the strike missions that are currently in the game. Okay, and I've put them into a tier list. Now, how is this gonna work? Pretty simple. I will talk a little bit about my experience with each of these strikes and their mechanics and how they feel, if they're hard, if they're not, and I'll give my overall opinion and share with you guys what it is, how the tier list is gonna be. So let's start, shall we? Okay, here we go. This is not only a thing in terms of difficulty. I'm not gonna put Harvest Temple in S because of difficulty, okay? But I might end up putting it in S. So, this is all about mechanics, visuals of the boss, clarity of the mechanics. Difficulty is also in the mix there. We also have one thing really important for me. I think that is one of the most important things. It's how good is the fight in replayability. Is the fight really replayable, and are you gonna have fun every single time you do the fight, or the fight is every single time the same thing, so it doesn't really bring much fun to do it. So let's start, shall we? And I want to start with the first strike they've ever introduced. This strike is called the Secret Lair of the Snowman, and it came out with the Winter's Day. So, Secret Lair of the Snowman, it's like, it has that pre-phase where you have to get to the Secret Lair of the Snowman. I really like that. I really like the aesthetic of it as well. Where you fight the boss is really interesting. It's just a caved-in circular arena with a lot of snow, obviously. The fight on itself, it's not that hard. It has that heart mechanic, and you have to warm his heart by throwing snow at the snowman. The fight in itself, it's always good to have it back on Winter's Day, but the fight itself is not very interesting, and it doesn't really allow much replayability. It's easy as hell. You can easily do it with 6 to 7 people. Yeah, it's not. It was the first strike they did, and it's not really that good. So I'm gonna put the Secret Lair of Snowman in C, okay? Why do I put it in C? Well, I don't think it's really that good to be a B, okay? And I'll show you why in a couple seconds with another strike mission that we're gonna review right away. But I really don't think it is as bad as a D, okay? So, the Secret Lair of the Snowman, I consider it a C. Let's move on then. Let's move on to the next one, which is Shiver Peaks Pass. Shiver Peaks Pass was the first strike mission in the Icebird Saga. They've told us about the strike missions before the Icebird Saga launched. They told us about how they were a much quicker way to do content, group content, squad content of 10 people, sorry. Now, the Shiver Peaks Pass has also a pre-phase where you need to get to the boss. A little bit of jumping puzzly there. But honestly, it is actually the worst boss fight in the entire game, without counting Zaitan. So I'm gonna leave it at D. I really like the visuals. I like the jumping puzzle even. But I'm not really into the boss. The boss is so easy, it dies fairly quickly. You can easily solo it if you have the sustain, or you can duo it with a friend. I've actually done that with Jota. We've duoed this boss a couple times now. And replayability wise, it's awful, man. It's really awful. You just get in, you kill, and get out. It's not really that big of a deal. So, moving on. Next, we have Freyneer of Jarmac. Now, Freyneer of Jarmac is pretty much like Shiver Peaks Pass, but with 2 extra phases, which is the Freyneer instead of the Icebird construct. But is that enough to put it in C? Well, I do think it is enough to put it in C. It becomes as good as the Secret Lair of the Snowman. It has a little bit more interest to it. You have some projectiles from other mobs that you need to deal with. You have the special action now. You can use the mastery. The rewards are made with mastery system. They give you XP, but if you have the masteries, you get higher rewards. So that gives a little bit of replayability to it. You also have to jump. You need to destroy the ice cubes on your friends so that they can move. Yeah, there's a little bit more concepts to it, more mechanics to it, but it really isn't that much big of a difference. So as you can see, the first three strikes that ArenaNet launched, they weren't really that good. Let's move on. Now this one, I don't know if you can see it, but there's two codas there. This is the voice. Is it the voice in the claw of Jarmac? I think it's the voice in the claw, right? So this one is the voice and claw. This one is really good. I really like this one. This one may be really easy for those of you that are doing these on a weekly basis or even on a daily basis. But these two bosses are really not that hard, but they have fun mechanics. Like if you kill one before the other, the one that didn't die will go to the center of the arena, will overpower, and you have a little limited time to kill it. So you really want to bring those down as close as possible. So it has some fun elements to it. You have to dodge some big wide AoEs. You have to work together in terms of which boss you're gonna focus first. Yeah, I really like this fight. In terms of replayability though, there's where the lag comes in, because all the mechanics... Wait, we're getting some... Sorry, we're getting some advertisement from Spotify. In terms of actual mechanics, I don't think it's really okay, you have replayability on it because of the rewards, but in terms of the mechanics itself, they are not very fun to replay it because they don't have any variation to it. They're always the same, and this is an issue that happened with all of these three strikes that we reviewed previously. So I really think this strike is good, but it could have been better. I'll put it on C actually. It's still better than the Franier and better than the secret lair of the Snowman. It is so close to being a B, but it's not quite there. Now next we have the Bone Skinner. Oh god, the Bone Skinner. The Bone Skinner is one of the most fun strikes you can have in the Iceberg Saga. It's actually the hardest strike in my opinion of the entire Iceberg Saga. And the Bone Skinner is really interesting. First off, the mechanics of the Bone Skinner are very hard and punishing. Like if you watch, these strikes came out in the same patch, but firstly there was the Franier of Jarmac in the first week. On the second week of the patch they were the voice and the claw, and in the last week they throw us the Bone Skinner. And the Bone Skinner was really interesting because it was a bump in difficulty for the strike missions. It had a lot of mechanics, a lot of projectiles, the mechanic of the boss, the raised hand, and you have to dodge it. I really like that mechanic. I like the mechanic where he steps out and then jumps back in. The condition damage is really high there. You have the special action key to bring it down and do some CC. And overall, it's a really fun strike to replay because of that simple mechanic of raise harm will change your gameplay every single time. If you have one fuck up, like one of you just steps forward before the time, you're gonna have to adjust. And having to adjust is something that really brings replayability up. You want these strikes to have mechanics that influence the way you play them, because if the mechanics are not done correctly, you're gonna have to adjust, and that's where the replayability comes in, and that's where the strikes really have a new flair to them and really shine. So, but the Bone Skinner for me is a high tier A. It's a really high tier A. I really like the Bone Skinner. It's on par with other strikes that I'll show you. And the Bone Skinner, it's a major win for the Iceberg Saga. It really was. Now, next one. This next one, okay, is a bit of a bigot. Next one is Forging Steel. Now, Forging Steel in terms of lore is amazing. in terms of pure lore, Forging Steel is one of the best strikes. It really has depth to it. You really explore the characters. You really get a nice view on what Rylan and his crew think about the things with Bangar, and I really like that. I like the thing that we see the summit dwarfs. Oh man, that is amazing. Also, the escort is fun. It's not that hard, but it's fun. The strike overall, it's not really hard. It's big as hell, but it's not really hard. It feels almost like a raid encounter, which is good. The last boss has interesting mechanics. You really have to use the char tank. You have to dodge. Well, the thing is with that last boss, it's we have seen that boss before. We have seen that in dungeons. But I really like that they've brought that model back up. They've reused the model and they've adapted the model to the fight. I really like it. I think it's one of those more interesting strikes because they've done so many different things in comparison to the others. That is a strike that shines. The only problem is the amount of time it consumes. But I think this strike is a high C. It's definitely higher than Coda and than the Codons, definitely higher than that. But it's not as high as a B in my opinion. I think this one is still a C. But I really like the new in depth they took there. Now, just give me a second. Wait, guys, I'll be right back. Okay, guys, I'm back. So let's move on. Now the next one is the Whisper of Jarmac. Now the Whisper of Jarmac. Let's take let's take a breath here. The Whisper of Jarmac is really good. The Whisper of Jarmac is one of those strikes that I think they've really thought it through. They thought how the model of the boss is gonna be. They thought about the stage where you're gonna fight the boss. They thought about the chain mechanics. The chain mechanics are so punishing, and I really like that. When you fight a clone of yourselves during the fight, you have those projectiles that you need to use the worms from necromancers or something to stop the projectiles. I really like that at the end of the fight. Well, there's a lot of good things in this fight, but there's a caveat to it. I think this fight and all the mechanics of this fight are well, not counting with chains, because chains are one of the best mechanics of the fight, to be honest. But besides chains, the fight itself, it's not very replayable. The fight is good, but replayability wise, it's not that good. So I'm gonna put this in on B. It's really good, but not as good as Bone Skinner. The Bone Skinner is a really good strike. I remind you, this is A, okay? This is almost perfect. So yeah, the Bone Skinner is really good, and the Whisper of Jarmac is really good as well. The only difference between these two for me, and it makes a huge deal for me, it's the replayability wise. If the mechanics don't interfere or don't change from push to push, from pull to pull, sorry, it really is not that interesting for me at least. Now moving on to Cold War. Now, Cold War is an interesting one, isn't it? As you can see, with all these strikes, they've tried very different things. They've tried escort missions, they've tried jumping puzzles before the boss, they've tried some sort of raid wing style with the secret lair of the Snowman, and they've tried just pure bosses. And actually, I prefer just the bosses ones. It's quicker, you get in, you get out, and that's it. I really like that. But Cold War is a defensive strike mission, where you get in, you need to kill as many mobs as possible and bosses within the time limit, and survive. If you survive until the time limit hits, you get the boss of the strike, and then you have to kill the boss. Now, the concept. I like the concept. I think it's badly executed, but that's another thing. But I like the concept of defending and surviving for as long as you can, and as many mobs as you kill is as many rewards you're gonna get. Um, I like that. That had some replayability to it, and that bumps it right away for me. It bumps it right above the voice and claw, right there. Just because of that, I would put it right here. But the bosses on themselves are really good. You have some mechanics. The last boss especially is really good. You have mechanics of the choppers. You have several different mechanics where you need to split up. The AoEs are really small, and some people don't see it, so they kill you, which is fun. You have the Ash Legion interferes. I really like all the legions coming in. I like that you get to see the one that's announcing and making the public announcements during the Drizzlewood map. She's the final boss of this strike, so I really like that. And the Frost Legion, yeah, they're interesting. I would put this though below Whisper of Jarmac, but above Civil War. Now there's a catch here. I don't know if I should put this on B or on C, but to be honest, I'm gonna put it on C. It's a high tier C, okay? It's really a high tier C. It's almost a B. It's a good strike. It's a good strike. It could be better. In terms of replayability, I think the defensive part where you have to stand during the time period, I think it could be better. And the special action key, I'm not really a fan of that. Moving on. Now, after the Icebrute Saga. Oh, I don't know if I should include champions here. Nah, champions is a world boss. I consider meta event a world boss, so I'm not really gonna put it. You can do it with 10-man content and do it as a strike, but I actually don't think that counts as a strike. These are strike encounters. Well, if that counts as a strike mission, let me just tell you right away, I would put it in D. If Dragonstorm, yeah, if Dragonstorm was a strike mission, I would put it in D. Right above Chiva Peaks Pass, but still in D. Now, moving on to the End of Dragons. Before End of Dragons launch, we heard about strike missions coming back, and I think with this, we were little bit concerned, especially because of these strikes in C. We were a little bit concerned. There was not much potential. There was a lot of potential, but there was not much quality to the ones that they delivered before. The Whisper and the Boneskinner were good, but most of them weren't that good. So there was a little bit of, how do I put it, negativity towards the strike missions, and not having new raids also hurt the community a little bit. But once End of Dragons launch, I got in, I played the game, I played the story, and I reached the first strike mission, Aetherblade Hideout. Now, Aetherblade Hideout, you fight, spoilers, everyone. Okay, all I know I should have said this before, but this is full of spoilers. Now, when you get in Aetherblade Hideout, you fight my train. First off, the strike missions being implemented in the story, I really like that. I think it's a huge bump, and you're gonna notice that I'm gonna use it as an argument to bump some of these up, especially the Aetherblade Hideout one. The Aetherblade Hideout, I really like the last phase. No, not the last. Yeah, the last phase where Scarlet shows up. After you bring my train to 10%, Scarlet shows up. I also like the phase where you need to move to the mobs, but some mobs are only vulnerable to damage, while other mobs are only vulnerable to CC. I like that. That does add some flair to it. I also like the mechanic that she does with the circles. Now, the mechanic with the circles was a little bit weird the first couple of times, and the CM, oh man, the CM was brutal when it came out because of the circles. It wasn't a really bump in difference. You have 3 people to go into the greens now. You need to count which ones go to the green. You have more lasers coming in, but honestly, the difference between the CM, oh, that's another thing, right? These have CMs. All these strikes, these 5 ones left, have challenge modes. These ones don't, okay? All the strikes that I've put in the tier list, they don't have CMs, and that is something also that's gonna affect a little bit the tier list in terms of where do I put the next ones. Okay, so the Etherblade out with the CM, it really shines. I think it gets more replayability out of the CM than you get on the normal mode. It is really interesting how they did the mechanic of the circles in the CM. I really like it. I really like the story. I like the fight with Mytrin and the surprise moment where you're almost killing Mytrin and you see Scarlet Briar has this huge model showing up. I really enjoyed it. So I'm gonna put Aetherblade out just below Whisper of Jarmac, but above Civil War. And actually, I might put Civil War on the B, put it like on a lower B, and just yeah, I'll do that. Aetherblade out is better than Civil War, worse than Whisper of Jarmac, even with the challenge mode. Okay, I prefer to do Whisper of Jarmac than Aetherblade out. That's what I'm saying. Okay, moving on. Next one. Now this one is Anka. Okay. Whew, Light Jade Junkyards. This one stinks for me. I'll be honest. And why? I'll tell you why. First off, Anka was one of my favorite characters of the entire End of Dragon storyline. I really liked how they developed Anka. I really like her personality. I think they've hit a spot where the feeling of impotence, or the feeling of powerlessness turns Anka into an evil person, and I really enjoy that. I really think that shines as hell in End of Dragons, but the strike mission is really not that good. In terms of the mechanics, you have some interesting mechanics. The hallucinations, following one target and you have to move out. That's good. The moments where she teleports and sucks you in and gives you one shot if you step on the AOE. That's good as well. I like the most of all. I like the hallucination worms that pop off and spread out. Those hallucinations are really good. They kill people very fast, and they add some replayability because they're not showing up always on the same place. Now, there's other mechanics that are so boring, like the mechanic to step off from her and CC the other things. I don't recall what they are, and you have to CC the things and then go back to Anka. I really don't like that. The heads of Zaitan, I don't know why they're there. I know she's a necromancer, but I don't think the heads of Zaitan should be there. I think the heads of Zaitan are a good mechanic, but they don't really fit the strike mission. I also enjoy the fact that she moves around the J Junkyard, just as the world boss does. I really like that. I think more bosses could move around and make more interesting visuals, like with the platforms where they are and how you play them. I think that could be better. Now with Anka, they did a good job. I like the last phase where she goes up into the sky and she says, "You don't know anything, Commander, and you're not ready for this." And she just consumes void and infuses it with void. I like that. That is a small little detail that I really enjoy that they added. But overall, I think Anka. And this might I think this may be a controversial take, but I really think Anka is not better than Aetherblade Hideout. Be- and this is my personal opinion, of course. This is my personal opinion on these tier lists, but oh man, the Anka not being a good boss fight really hurts me. So I'm gonna put it below the Aetherblade Hideout. But it's still a B strike, okay? Like for me, B strikes are the oh man, if this is something that I put in my mind before doing this while I was preparing this tier list yesterday. I really set on my mind that the B tier is like my expectations for a good strike. So with that in mind, I need to put Civil War back into the C, because if Civil War is the quality bar that I expect, I'm not gonna be happy. I'll be honest. But Anka, Haterblade Hideout, and Whisper Jarmac, yeah, I'll be happy with that quality bar again. I don't mind. But Anka is Junlai Junkyard is really threading on those lines where it's almost as bad as Civil War, to be honest. Okay, moving on. Now we have Minister Lee. Oh man, the Kindling Overlook strike mission is really good. In terms of visuals, it's like amazing. It's brilliant. They've put it on top of a rooftop in the middle of New Kainang, which oh man, the view is amazing. I really like that. Even in the story instance where you climb up the elevator and you just stand in awe to the empire that June developed with high tech. It's really amazing. I really like that. Now, in terms of the fight, this is, in my opinion, one of the best fights Guild Wars 2 has in terms of strike missions. And I'll tell you why. First off, it's not one single boss. Okay? They've tried that with the Freynier of Jarmac all these times ago, all these years ago. The Freynier of Jarmac, then you fight the Iceberg Construct with the Freynier, and then you go back to the Freynier. I don't like that you go back to the Iceberg Construct from the Shiver Peak Pass, but I like that you change the boss who you're dealing with. And in the Kindling Overlook strike, they did that perfectly, in my opinion. You have Minister Lee, a Minister of Security of the city, and he has his guards. He has his crew of loyal lapdogs that really will do anything he commands. Now, these lapdogs, they're a pain in the ass, and the challenge mode is brutal. Like, I really think that this is one of those strikes that shines also in replayability because of the numbers mechanic, because of the AoE's mechanic that the Minister Lee does while he's charging his Dragon Slash. I really like that. I like that his Dragon Slash is a one-shot. That is really good as well. It really makes you pay attention to the boss and to the mechanics. The only thing that I really don't like about this boss, by the way, I like the Mind Blade, I like the Ritualist, I like the other guy, I don't recall the name. But the phase with the Golem and the Sniper, now that could use some improvement. The Sniper isn't. I don't like the thing that the Sniper goes into the towers and then comes back in. You're supposed to follow the Sniper up the zip lines, but no one really does that, and you can be shot down while you're going up there. So it doesn't. It's not really worth it. And I think it's not really thought out. But in the CM though, in the CM it's really good, and you really can feel the difficulty there, the difficulty bump there. Now, this strike, I really think it's definitely better than Whisper of Jarmac, okay? The sound, oh my god, I haven't talked about the music in these strikes, but there's some music here that's really good, like the Bone Skinner one music is amazing, okay? The Whisper of Jarmac music's not that good, it's a little bit too dramatic for me, but now the music on this strike, this music's really good. And actually, I'm gonna put this strike on a very high A tier. This is one of those strikes that if they do strikes like it, in terms of difficulty, in terms of design and everything, if they all hit the same bars that this one did, I think we're in for a good run of strikes. Yeah, Minister Lee, Kindling Overlook, it's an A tier, higher than the Bone Skinner. It's really good. Now, next one. And this is the one I think you've all been waiting for. Harvest Temple. Now, Harvest Temple, oh my god. I haven't done Harvest Temple CM, to be honest. I've seen a lot of Harvest Temple CM, I haven't done Harvest Temple CM. I fully understand the mechanics of the fight, but I haven't done it. Now, there is something here that it's gonna be controversial, okay? I really don't like the thing that you're fighting one void, and that the void, it's not really the thing that you fight the most during the fight, okay? What you're fighting the most during the fight are the dragons, the Elder Dragons, or the representation of the Elder Dragons within the void. Now, this thing, in terms of lore, it wasn't really that good. Let me be honest. in terms of lore, the Harvest Temple could have done better. I think in the story instance, it's much better the way they've showed you the last big fight with Suwon. I really like that, but it's far better in the story instance. I also like the orb mechanic. Now, the orb mechanics is a little bit of a surprise for us because we really never had our orb mechanic either in raids or dungeons or fractals. Now, the closest thing we had was from the Nightmare fractal. You have those orbs during the boss and during some of the phases, but in Harvest Temple, you have to push an orb, you have to control the position of the orb, and that is where the replayability really gets a bump up. Like if the whole fight didn't have the orb phase, like the first few orb phases, you just push the orb out and you CC. That's really easy. Now the orb between Kralkatoric and Mordremoth gets really dangerous, and the orb when Suwon just before Suwon gets to 0.5%, or when Suwon gets to 0.5% of her health, the orb really shines. Where you have all these little smaller orbs coming out in a pattern, and you have all to maintain the orb in the middle of the arena so it doesn't bounce and kill you off all with a one shot. I think that is one of the best mechanics of the entire strike mission. Now, in terms of the dragons themselves, they're not really that fun. The only ones that are really fun for me are Modremoth, Zaitan, and Suwon, not because of her, but because of the champions that she spawns. But yeah, Zaitan is really fun. Modremoth is fun. Suwon is really interesting, but once you see Suwon, I feel like, yeah, we're really close to getting a kill, so I think I wipe more times in Zaitan than I do in Suwon, basically. Yeah, that's not perfect, and let me be honest, none of these strikes are perfect, but in my opinion, in my honest opinion, this strike deserves an S tier. They've done an amazing job in terms of mechanics, in terms of the difficulty of the boss, in terms of the required knowledge that you have for the game. The soundtrack is amazing because every time it appears an Elder Dragon, you get the soundtrack of the Elder Dragon. And once Modremoth or Zaitan comes in, like, I get hyped every single time because those soundtracks mean so much to me from, oh man, so many years ago that they really represent almost a different timetable for me. And I think the sound design was really top notch on this strike. Now the visuals, they can get a little bit clustered, but I like the orange AoE mechanic. I think that's really good. The ones closest to the Dragon Void will get the orange AoE mechanic. That's nice. On the CM you have the greens. The CM is literally the hardest content the game has ever had and probably will ever have. So yeah, Harvest Temple is an S tier strike. Every time they deliver us something like Harvest Temple, it's gonna be an S tier because it's really good. And yeah, Harvest Temple deserves to be there. Now, last but not definitely least, because this is Old Lions Court. Old Lions Court was added back in November of 2022. It's fairly recent, but damn, oh damn, oh damn. If you saw me yesterday trying to complete this strike, you're gonna know how hard this boss is, okay? The boss in itself, it's really not that hard in terms of difficulty, but the mechanics, oh, the mechanics, man. Oh, the mechanics. So basically, you have the three bosses. You have red, green, and blue. Red has a mechanic that I really like in terms of replayability. All the mechanics of these bosses are really pushing replayability in strikes, and I adore it. It's one of the best things they've done for this strike. It may not be the bosses may not be visually stunning, but the fight itself is awesome. Is really good because of the replayability. So red has his mechanics. The mechanic of the red is, well, if you know what to do, it's meaningless. The mechanic's really easy to push through. Now the red the green one mechanic, the green mechanic pushes you towards the boss, or pulls you towards the boss, and the closer you are, the more damage you take. And the blue one is, it pushes you out of the boss, and the further away you are, more damage you get in. Now, if these two are doing the same, are doing their mechanics at the same time, oh man, it is a clusterfuck. But let me tell you, it's fun. The replayability on this strike is really high because of those mechanics. The CCs are really interesting. Now, if you do CC one boss, the AoEs flip, and well, I've wiped a couple times because of that. Not yesterday, but the day before with our static, we really wiped because of it. I really like the phases where they come in pairs. The phase where they come in pairs is really dangerous, and I think the last phase where when the three of them come at the same time, if it if instead of coming at 10% health, if they came at 20% health, it was gonna be a pain in the ass. But I really like it, and I think the only disappointment about this strike, I'm not gonna put it in D, sorry, this is just because I've clicked it. But the only downside, in my opinion, to this strike is the CM. The CM wasn't really that good. The CM could have been much better. I think the main mistake ArenaNet made with this CM is they didn't think the players would be prepared for the CM, and they would study literally the fight before getting the CM, the challenge mode. And I think that made a huge difference. Although it's, for me, it's one of the best fights in the game, and I'll put it just below Harvest Temple. Yeah, that's basically it, guys. So this is my strike missions tier list as of now, as of 2023. And yeah, so for me, the best strike mission right now is Harvest Temple, followed by Old Lion's Court, and Ministerly, Kindling Overlook. I think if the strikes that we are going to get on future expansions and future releases, if they are between Old Lion's Court and Kindling Overlook, I think we're in a hell of a ride, guys. Any strike that falls between these two strike missions, in terms of quality and replayability, it's gonna be a very good strike. It's gonna be very high quality content. Now, anything that comes like Whisper of Jarmac, the lower, it's gonna be a little bit of a disappointment, just like Anka was. Like, I really liked Anka during the lore, but once I did her strike mission, I was a little bit disappointed with the fight, I'll be honest. So I think that's the quality bar that they need to get to, is Kindling Overlook. Bone Skinner is good, but visually it doesn't have that appeal, and Kindling Overlook does. So that's why I think the best way for us to have strike missions would be between these two, and I don't think we're going to get another Harvest Temple like strike mission. It's a pain in the ass for them to develop something like that. But yeah, those are the strike missions. Let me know what you think. I'll put this. I'll post this part of the stream also as a different video, so that you can leave a like. So if you're watching this on YouTube after the stream, remember to leave a like, subscribe, and if you want to see me live, well, I'll be live almost every single day around 9:30 a.m. So that's it. That's my Guild Wars 2 Strikes tier list, and that is done.